had. Like it's really kind of weird that they're just gonna try to like pick the franchise up out of the cow dung and make a TV show out of it.
I mean, you've got to expect everybody to jump on board with, The Witcher and all these other things that when you look at like source material, especially for a TV show, I mean, there's a lot of groundwork done in video games to develop these longer story arcs and everything else. They're pretty well suited to be adapted into shows or into movies.
Yeah, a lot of times I think the failure with the movies is that they try to cram too much into a short time frame to make a movie. You know what I mean? Like these video games are 40 to 80 hours played on your screen, you know what I mean? And they try to condense an 80-hour storyline that you have to play into an hour and a half or a 2-hour movie. So yeah, maybe long format TV is where the video games actually should be showcased.
And I think Fallout being an interesting one. Wasn't there rumors about the Last of Us also getting picked up for something?
Yeah, so, I'm sure. But see, like The Last of Us, I mean, are we not burnt out on zombies yet?
No.
No? Okay.
I don't think there's... we took a pause on like vampires. That there was an overrun of
we had a shortage of shirtless dudes, I think, and we just hit pause on the vampires.
But I think zombies still has its place.
When are werewolves going to get their due, man? They're over there scratching behind the ear, just waiting for their casting call.
Yeah, we got to get some attention back to the friend at the cantina, Sean Mullen, and the Wolf and Me. Get his stuff picked up. I don't know, turn that into something.
Yeah, he bought in at the early stages. Maybe.
Yeah, he's
waiting for that rush to come when people get done with vampires and zombies. I don't know. I think Swamp Thing's just sitting in a corner, mad at the world.
But in other video game news, we've got a couple of different rumors regarding Xbox and Microsoft plans. And first one is that Xbox this week was reported by IGN that they're interested in acquiring WB Interactive, and that would actually give them a major developing studios, both on the sake of licensing deals and an actual studio in the NetherRealm Studios.
Well, and everybody's argument with Xbox is exclusivity. They don't have the exclusivity. Sony's got the Spider-Man franchises, and a lot of people go to Sony just for that franchise. Wait till Xbox takes Batman PlayStation. Have fun, motherfuckers.
And that's what's interesting about these rumors. Still definitely not a signed deal at this point in time. But Microsoft has been purchasing up a bunch of other studios that have less name recognition. They've purchased Ninja Theory and Obsidian and Double Fine and a bunch of other game developers. They have moved towards this system that they can put out their own exclusive games. If they could actually close this deal, then that gives them not the rights to Batman or Harry Potter, right? They're not going to own that from WB, but they'll own the licensing rights within video games, which means that, PlayStation, nobody else can make the game unless Microsoft gives them permission to make Batman, Harry Potter, other DC Comics characters, and then they would own outright NetherRealm Studios, which is the maker of Mortal Kombat. So Mortal Kombat would more than likely become an exclusive Xbox.
Which, if that's what they do, man, shots fired. Like, man, that's a big it's a big argument for the Xbox fans when the PlayStation fans throw that exclusivity in their face. If this gets pulled off, but who knows? Xbox likes to share. They might just take the rights and share them and take that pocket money. I could see it going either way.
Yeah, I could see it going either way, and I could also see these stories getting leaked just to start a bidding war and to raise the valuation of WB.
For sure leak this story.
I could also see that, and nothing gets done here. But the whole rumor behind why this is taking place is just because when AT&T purchased Time Warner a couple years ago, they took on a bunch of debt, $109 billion worth of debt in order to buy Time Warner, and they're just looking to divest from anything that's not considered an essential business for them at this point in time. So there's some actual reasons why this would be a sale at this point in time. But
Xbox, like, they're notorious for like wasting studios and wasting money. I mean, they debuted that Scalebound game 2 years ago, and everybody got hyped up for a dragon riding RPG co-op. Like, this thing was supposed to be dope as hell. I was ready to pre-order any day, and then just one day you get the news that, like, yeah, no, we're not even gonna put it out. We're done. We probably spent $100 million on developing this game, but fuck it. Like, it's not where we want it, and we're gonna scrap it. You know, same thing they did with Lionshead Studio. You know, they made Fables. They made 3 great Fable games. They were going to put out a 4th. It was in beta, and they were just like, yeah, no. Like, I played that Fable game that never came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And like, you know, like they just scrapped the studio, scrapped the game, and we're just like, okay, we're just not going to put it out. Like, they have no problem burning piles of money to save face.
Well, this would be a $4 billion pile of money. That's what the valuation of WB Interactive would be. So it still probably would be a smart deal for them and smart move going forward. But you know, speaking of Fable, there is news about Fable this week that Microsoft renewed their trademark. So they filed paperwork in June, towards the end of June there, to renew the Fable trademark. And, you know, nerds digging through legal documents found that not only did they renew the trademark as far as ownership, but they checked off a box that stated future use, that they're renewing it for actual current and future use. And there were rumors beforehand that you talked about, the Lionshead Studio making the previous ones. In this latest rumor, it's really the studio that makes Forza who's rumored to be working on it. That's Playground Games there.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I feel bad for the guys at Lionshead. I'm in a private Facebook group with a bunch of developers from Lionshead, and I was in that group when they fired everybody and when they scrapped that game, and it was sad emojis all around, bro. Like, let's put it like that. Bunch of salty dudes. And the group still exists. I still see them chatting about video game developments and stuff like that, and they are not excited about this, to say the least. Like, you know, so they put together some really great
Get somebody
games.
on here.
Everybody loves. See, I don't know what kind of contracts they signed. I know I mentioned it when we first started the podcast, but they might have some NDAs. They might I don't.
There's got to be some salty dude who's ready to let it burn.
And that's another thing is, like, please come on our show and spill your shame to the national public. Like, I don't know if they're down for that. But I feel bad for the guys because they're nice guys and they made 3 great games. Like, I love that entire franchise. I'm dying to have another Fable on the next generation of consoles. Fable in 4K with some great new mechanics and things like that would be insane. It would sell out. It would be such a hit. Like, Xbox rests its laurels on Gears of War and Halo, and I think they forgot about their major powerhouse franchise. And I hope they get back to it. Good luck. As a fan, I want this new studio to take it seriously and put out a good game, you know, but as someone that appreciates the original developers and what they did with that franchise, I kind of feel bad for the Lionshead guys.
Yeah, well, we'll see if something gets announced. It sounds like Playground Games has been working something really since 2018. They've been talking about how Xbox is their lead platform for the studio's next game development, and they've also confirmed that they were working on something that has nothing to do with driving or racing, like their previous Forzas. So all the rumors lead people to believe that Xbox Series X is going to get a Playground Games Fable that in this renewed trademark. We'll find out.
I'll take it.
But that's it for this week in real entertainment news. We can jump over.
Movie dates are holding.
Yeah,
for an entire week, we still got movie dates holding.
Go check out Hamilton on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But we can jump over to tech news, and we'll start with tech news and just some updates to some tech here. One of the stories that caught our eye this week was that there's the Tesla Model 3s are now becoming more and more used for various law enforcement and police forces. And the recent story is that it's being said that the Tesla Model 3s are able to essentially pay for themselves in less than 2 years.
Yeah, they said they save an average of $6,000 a year on gas per Tesla Model 3. They said that they switched out the charger for the Model 3, and the Model 3 starts at like $41 for the one they got. So it's a little more expensive than the chargers they were buying, but without the maintenance of oil changes and the constant need to fill these things up with gas. I want to say in a matter of 4 years, they were able to recoup about $20,000 of that 41. So essentially these things are paying for themselves. Like,
yeah, and that's they're talking about having a savings of $6,000 per year. So definitely within the first 2 years, they've recouped the cost that was the extra cost between buying say the Dodge Charger versus the Tesla Model 3. So they recouped that additional cost pretty quickly, and then over the years at average savings of $6,000 per year based off of current gas prices. It's a pretty good deal for them. That's exactly what we need is a bunch of cops with 0 to 60 acceleration at 2.2 seconds or whatever the hell it happens to be now.
And I'm looking forward to more police stations buying these cars, because God only knows what kind of gadgets Elon will put in there, knowing that like they have this market now. He's got all kinds of doodads and software updates for his regular customers. Like, I really would like to see what he comes with for law enforcement. This could be interesting.
Yeah, it's true. If he knows that there's a big market out there for it, or even a small market, he just likes to seem to throw money and programming into weird upgrades for his Tesla. So yeah, maybe we'll get some interesting lighting and interesting systems that the cops can take advantage of.
I just love that we're moving in this direction. I see value in my tax dollars going to this. It gets a bunch of police cars off the road that literally run all day. Even if they're just parked doing speeding tickets and stuff, those cars are running. Yeah. It's burning gas. It's putting out emissions into the atmosphere. Why not take these vehicles that are contributing greatly? Because, I don't know what the number is, but if you counted all the police cars in the country out driving at any given time, it's got to be in the tens of thousands. So if you can swap those out, like as consumers, we don't drive that much. You drive to work in the morning, you drive home, you go to the store, you do a little bit of shopping. You're not, contributing to your carbon footprint as much as these municipality vehicles do. So the fact that we could get tens of thousands of these cars converted over to zero emissions would be huge.
Yeah, right now this one's just coming out of Bargersville, Indiana. So maybe Bargersville, Indiana was the groundbreaking testing place for these police vehicles. I'm sure there's other cities and municipalities that exist.
Then it's scalable to any city in America. It's scalable.
Yeah, I would like to see it happen. I'd like to see more of these electric vehicles out in the place. Well, especially just Teslas. If I'm going to get arrested, at least I'd get a ride in a Tesla then.
Yeah, there's no engine noise for to drown out the guy in the back screaming "fuck the police."
But there's some additional news in electric vehicles and autonomous driving, and this was really it's about this network of self-driving trucks that is already in existence, but it's growing, and it's growing actually faster than I think most people are realizing. This article from Vox talks about Too Simple, which is a California-based company that is already right now running 40 autonomous driving semi-trucks in the states of Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. And they're already running 1,000-mile routes between, say, Phoenix and San Antonio or Phoenix and Dallas, going through out there. And they're doing well. Now, this is still with a human being sitting inside the driver's seat, but not in any way driving. And the company states that really their focus is, yes, they have 40 trucks. They're looking to add 10 more trucks by the end of this year, but they don't necessarily consider themselves a trucking company. They consider themselves a software company, and they're using the trucks. They're using their cameras and sensors to prove that it's good, and they're using it to develop the software and more accurate mapping. Every time these trucks drive the road, they get better accurate mapping of the routes that they're taking. And that's what they believe is the goal of their company, is to essentially sell this software and roll this out. Because if, again, the future of autonomous driving is based off of a single company developing and building all these trucks, it's not going to happen. But if you can start rolling it out to all these other truck manufacturers, that's the big win.
I just don't think people realize how close we are to this. Like, they're not the only company with this stuff in production right now. And as it becomes more prevalent, we might not have like a human-less truck on the road in the next, 3 to 4 years. But as more and more of these trucks get on the road and all you need is a human to sit in the cab and not even drive, it's going to devalue what a truck driver's salary should be now. Now technically, that CDL that you have, you're driving 30 miles out of the 1,000-mile trip that this thing is doing. So what now is your value to this company? What is your value to the trucking industry? So before we see truck drivers just go extinct, we're going to see them devalued to a point where they can't make enough money to support their family on this. This is going to be like a McDonald's type job. Yeah,
I mean, it's very possible it's going to head that way. Like you talk about, there are a lot of different companies that do it, like Aurora, Daimler. There's an Embark Trucks, and then Google owns their own autonomous driving arm. There's a company called Waymo, which is owned by Google. So there's a lot that are moving trucks in this direction. And like you said, the truth is this will not be a highly skilled job, or the CDLs and stuff like that in order to be able to drive these trucks. Even the future of these systems, the human interaction they're hoping is remote access to these trucks for when a human is required to drive, say, within a city, within like the loading docks. But, is the future of trucking, do you even need to know how to back up a truck with a trailer? No. I mean, in the end, there's going to be sensors on the back of every truck. You tell it, hey, I want to dock here, and it's going to do it for you way more accurately than a human's going to drive.
Yep. And our grandfather supported our family for 50 years on the trucking industry. He owned his own truck driving company, and to like see something that provided a good life for multiple generations of our family just kind of like dying off like this. It's a new age. AI and all this stuff, it's not going to replace humans right away. You know what I mean? You got some time, but in that time, you really need to evaluate what your value is and take this time to start pivoting maybe into something else that can provide you the same life quality that you have now. If you're listening to this while you're driving a truck, writing's on the wall, motherfucker. I'm here to warn you. You better start taking some online classes, homie.
Yeah, but you talked about, this is closer than people think. What do you think? What's the time frame you think? Long road, so
long road trucking
state
with
trucking.
No humans becoming a thing to where, like, yeah, you're the little kid in the back of the station wagon and you start pumping your arm for the computer to honk, and you drive by and there's just ain't nobody in that motherfucking cab. 2028. I'm Nostradamus in this shit right now. 2028's the under over.
I think that might be possible. Even Too Simple, which is one of the leading companies here. Right now, they only exist in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Phase 2, they're trying to roll out in the other lower states, not including California. California is not a part of really the plan. But by 2023, they're looking to be essentially from Arizona to Florida, and as far north as North Carolina. And then phase 3 but they're hoping by 2024 to have their trucks on the road in all the states. Now, this is still with a human in the truck, but running all of these routes.
What's gonna really determine it is whether they go with to get the humans out of the truck, whether they want to go with remote drivers for the city. So you just have 50 people sitting in simulators in an office building somewhere, bringing these things through the city, which I don't know how well that's going to work. I mean, a lot of the truck that you drive through these tight cities, you kind of need to feel, we've all seen that back trailer run over the corner of that curb. We all see those curbs getting blasted because we got some tight roads and the corners, trucks can't make those corners. And I don't know how safe I feel with a dude just driving it in a simulator and doesn't feel that bump of the curb and just starts taking out stop signs and light poles left and right and doesn't even notice, So I kind of see it going as they remove the driver for the long haul, and then they end up having warehouses on the outskirts of the cities that all these trucks dock into, and then a driver gets in and helps take it home to its final destination, and then takes a fucking driverless Uber back to the warehouse or some shit to take the next truck, or takes the truck out of the city, takes another truck out of the city to that docking station right in the outskirts, and then the truck drives itself to the next docking station. I think that is going to be faster. I see remote probably being a thing after my 2028 deadline, but I do see maybe having major hubs in the outskirts of cities where you just have drivers sitting in a waiting room waiting for the next truck, driverless truck to come in, and then they get in and the truck still drives itself until it hits Damon and Halstead, and it's got to go under these crazy viaducts and make these tight corners and things like that. And that's when you're going to have an actual human, making sure that we ain't running over babies on the street corner or some shit.
Yeah. I think 2028 is probably not too far off, as far as...
I think it's a reasonable timeline.
I think so. I think the only thing that's going to slow it down is not the technology, but it's going to be the regulation. And it's going to be whether regulators are going to allow it to progress to humanless driving.
Yeah, well, these companies, I'm sure, are going to have their own lobbyists and...
Oh, yeah, that already exists.
Yeah. This is an inevitability. It's an inevitability. If you are in this industry, like I said, man, the writing's on the wall. If you are a 35-year-old truck driver, you are going to need to figure out what the fuck you're going to do with the last 25 years of your career.
Yeah, I think if I was looking for employment at this point in time, I would take a long, hard look if I was considering getting a CDL and becoming a truck driver. But we can move on. We can move on to a couple, national security threats, issues with
bad people doing bad things on the interwebs.
Yeah, the first one,
par for course.
Yeah, this is where we live here. First one was just National Security Agency warned about VPNs being vulnerable to various cyber attacks. And I know we've talked briefly about VPNs in the past, and the fact that they sometimes provide people a false sense of security. VPNs get tossed around as this magic bullet in protecting you. And it's if you listen to podcasts, just about every other podcast is going to have some kind of VPN promoting it or advertising on it.
Yeah, and VPNs are marketing hard.
Yeah, you see VPNs everywhere because people are concerned about cybersecurity. They're concerned about protecting their data and all that stuff, and
they also want the United States Netflix menu rather than their European counterparts.
That too. But what the NSA and stuff is coming out and saying is that there are some significant security concerns with VPNs. Not to mention that they don't do exactly what you think they're going to do. Maybe if you're in a public Wi-Fi setting or whatever else, a VPN, it may be a good workaround for you there. If you're doing remote work, having a VPN to your actual terminals, that might work. But it's not going to necessarily protect you from
everyone thinks VPNs are like taking a giant bouncer doorman and putting him out front of your computer to stop everybody from getting in. And really, all VPNs are doing is changing the signage on your club to make it seem like it's something different. Like, that's it. Like, it's no really added security.
Yeah, and so don't think the VPNs are going to protect you from everything. They do have some use there, but in the end, be warned. The NSA is concerned here. But then we can now move into what's going to probably eat up the remainder of the show here as we go into one of our favorite segments we haven't done in a while, and that's Fuck China.
Yeah.
and this week found a bunch of news coming out about Chinese companies, whether that's Huawei, Tic Tok, all of these companies that have been in the news for a while.
Yeah, ones that we've been waving the red flag for a while now.
And China couldn't help but to get some bad publicity this week with July 1st, their new sedition laws going into effect in Hong Kong, and the ripple effects that take place there. You get the hacker group Anonymous went ahead and targeted TikTok, and they tweeted and declared in their anonymous accounts to delete this Chinese spyware company now. And this is like it's funny. I was just with some friends over the weekend, just a couple local families, and they were talking about these TikTok dance videos and stuff like that. And that's every time anybody mentions TikTok, it's just say delete it. Delete that spy company.
Yeah, my neighbors' kids, I see them setting their cell phones up on like the garage window and then doing these TikTok dances in front of the of their phones with their trampoline in the background and stuff. And I just want to knock on his door and be like, "Hey man, save your kids. save your kids. Tell them to delete that shit." Like it's a lot of people just don't think about this stuff, man. It's one of those background noises that just gets drowned out, and it makes the national news every once in a while. But honestly, with how bad that they take our data and what they're using this program for, you would expect our mainstream media, maybe the FCC, somebody that gives a shit about this country, come out and just be like, "Hey, like, what are y'all doing?"
Well, this is why we've got Anonymous, and it was found at the end of June that there was some allegations of data mishandling, and by TikTok. There's always allegations of TikTok censoring individuals, as that's right in line with the Chinese model there, and then. At the end of June, in the latest Apple iOS update, it was found that during that update that it caught that TikTok was secretly accessing and copying people's clipboards. So things that you copy and pasted your clipboards within your phone. The TikTok app was for some reason gaining access to those, and there's some backlash as far as what would be the purpose? Why would that be built into TikTok in the first place? And it then quickly followed at the very end of June that India, the second most populous country in the world, which is actually a very tech-centered population there, they banned TikTok along with 58 other Chinese-owned apps. And there's history between China and India and their relationship.
Those are two big countries with lots of people and nuclear weapons, pretty fucking close to each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of struggle, other political things going on between China and India, but still, I mean, it's telling when a country as populous and developed as India is going to ban TikTok as well as 58 other Chinese owned apps, just stating that any apps developed from China that base their servers in China aren't trusted in the entire country of India. And now we're looking at how do we handle this as U.S. And again, Anonymous is firmly in the belief that it should be deleted right away. They stated that if you know someone that is using it, explain to them that it's essentially malware operated by a Chinese government running a massive spying operation, and that's what TikTok put on their account.
Well, and now you have the United States also trying to take the same position India is going to. we have a capitalist system and, a free market and things like that, but we have to be wary as to letting companies with malicious intent access our free market. It can't be a truly free market when you have national security implications in mind. So we have Pompeo coming out and looking to ban a bunch of Chinese apps just like India.
Yeah, and he hasn't. So, Mike Pompeo didn't come out and say that it is getting banned, but he did come out and say that they're looking at banning all Chinese apps to include TikTok.
Yeah, it's an election year, and you don't want to piss off the Zoomers. So I think they might let that ride till after election.
Yeah, that'd be a bad move in September or October to kill TikTok and then expect any votes in November.
Just give away that 18 to 24 voting demographic. Just scrap it right there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how slow to realize or the potential threat here, and I guess the problem is it's really still falls in the realm of potential threat. There is no real hard truth tie between what is happening with the data that's collected by TikTok, what is happening within these Chinese servers. TikTok still claims that they are in no way, controlled by the Chinese government. But you gotta think that
your cell phone's like a party, and you got this big app party. Are you going to invite the apps to your party that rob everybody's motherfucking house? Like your neighbor just had a barbecue, they robbed him. You're like you see it on the news, like these people be robbing people, like it's a known thing. But I want to have a big party. Come on, it's fun. Just don't rob me.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, don't worry, we ain't gonna rob you. And next thing you know, all your shit's gone.
And I think an interesting kind of something that tips towards, if you're on the fence on whether, it's just a Chinese-owned company, but it's not like China government ran company.
Every Chinese company is.
Yeah, and what we see this week with again, we talk about those Hong Kong sedition laws that they put in place where they're now, jailing journalists, and they've disbanded a bunch of anti-Beijing groups, and immediately essentially took to the streets. And TikTok, within short order after July 1st, has now censored and stopped operating in the country of Hong Kong. And that's Chinese censorship. There's no other reason for Hong Kong.
I would love to see a big hashtag push for somebody to make up some in support of Hong Kong TikTok dance and let that go viral and watch what
the people
do.
In Hong Kong aren't going to see it.
Yeah, well, but I would love to see if 1 billion people end up making this thing go viral, and how TikTok reacts to even just people outside of Hong Kong doing this. We've seen what their reaction was to the NBA over a tweet. You have a whole generation of Zoomers all over the world doing a free Hong Kong kind of like protest song and dance or whatever the fuck you want to do on there, and see if they don't censor you. See how much you think that you don't matter in this equation.
Yeah, it's absolutely possible. That nobody in China is going to see it. Nobody in Hong Kong is going to see it as as a Chinese-owned company, but international access to TikTok in China doesn't exist. It's behind the Great Firewall of China, and now people in Hong Kong don't have access to TikTok. But here in this country, again, we think that there's nothing wrong with it, and I still tell everybody. I will continue to tell everybody. I will delete it off of any family member of mine's phone that brings it within my presence. I'll just go ahead and delete it off of their forum.
Yeah, YouTube Shorts. Where you at, man? Where you at?
Yeah, how hard would it be to just replicate this? I don't understand what's taking so long here.
Well, we can quit beating the TikTok dead horse as we tend to do. Move on to our other favorite Chinese company that we like to say fuck you to is Huawei. Yeah,
and there isn't much news. We just figure we'll talk about Chinese companies here now, so we can give an update as far as where Huawei sits as it was really towards the end of last year that here in the U.S., the battle between 5G and the banning of Huawei technologies. And what we see now is that European Union has been slow to get behind this. They've not outright banned Huawei yet. And what we saw this week was France stated that they're not going to ban Huawei, but they're going to strongly encourage telecom companies to avoid the use of Huawei technology. And it sounds like a weak stance there to not ban it, but just to have a governmental encouragement to not use it.
Yeah, we see how well that works with wearing face masks here.
But even though I think that's a weakly worded thing, it did give the French government, from my understanding of it, is they're encouraging telecom companies not to use Huawei, but they actually have to gain permission from the French government to use it. So it could be an effective ban if in the end all of these telecom companies have to go with
apply
other
to use
people.
it, and they just deny every application. Like I remember seeing a story about the Florida governor in like paroles. Like you actually have to go in front of the Florida governor and apply for a certain type of like parole, and like literally he sees like 500 a year and he's giving out zero. like zero. It's like, why are you even wasting everybody's time? So there's just a dude in France red stamping everybody's application. Like, oh, thanks for trying. No thanks.
Yeah, so I mean that might be an effective ban. It doesn't come out that way. The headline doesn't state it as such.
It's a way for them to save face with China. You know what I mean? It's a way for them to essentially cut Huawei out without telling China, fuck you. Like, oh, we're just going to be a little careful. Don't worry about it. Like, no, China, we still want to do business with you. And then in the dark room, they're just like, denied.
Yeah, and
or until China throws a big pile of money at France, and then it's accepted.
Well, we also get the UK, which initially when the US banned Huawei and we're trying to raise the flag on being concerned about Huawei, UK stated that they were not going to ban it, that they were going to move forward with their 5G network. And what we're seeing now is the UK is really starting to come off of that, and they are talking about banning Huawei technology within their 5G networks. So they're looking to phase out Huawei technology they already have and are moving from it for whatever future developments they're putting into their country. So another move towards it. It looks like the U.S. was on the leading edge here of raising this as a concern, and we're now getting more and more countries, especially in the EU, behind it.
And our last story of the day for Fuck China?
Yeah, and our last story here is that within Hong Kong, so Google, Facebook, and Twitter are no longer processing, and they've put a pause on complying with law enforcement requests within Hong Kong. And again, this goes back into this concept of July 1st. The sedition laws went into effect, and good on Google, Facebook, and Twitter for recognizing that on July 1st, they did not want to be a part of what was going to be mass censorship, mass arrests and jailings that were going to take place, and they are not currently complying with any law enforcement requests from Hong Kong.
Yeah, they're not currently complying. It's not like they haven't been the reason for God only knows how many Hong Kong citizens get locked up prior to this.
Yeah, well, I mean, they did in Hong Kong. Same as they do here. If there's an actual, if the country that they're operating in has a warrant type system that they can request for these tech companies to comply to, they do in order to operate within these countries. But they don't operate, right? They're not behind the Great Firewall of China. They're not operating within China. They have been operating in Hong Kong. So then once this changed, they just put a pause because they don't have a relationship with the Chinese government who's going to start putting in these requests. They normally worked with Hong Kong law enforcement, and they put a pause on it so that way they can see. And what probably will end up happening is either Google, Facebook, and Twitter are going to start complying, which I don't actually foresee happening, especially, Twitter's been pretty good at not not complying with these type of things, in the end, what's going to happen is they're going to stop being able to operate in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is going to lose access more than likely to these companies, same as they just lost access to TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a tough spot. Like Twitter, and they've helped start revolutions, right? You had the Arab Spring, pretty much Twitter supported that whole endeavor. In Hong Kong, they were using Twitter a lot to organize and things like that. I do see it as kind of a loss for the citizens of Hong Kong that are trying to enact change. But at the same time, like, these companies have so much power that if it got corrupted by, against them, it could cause even more problems. So I think it's almost a net positive for the citizens of Hong Kong for just them to pull out. Like, they're going to have to figure out a new way to organize and get their message out, which could be troublesome. But as far as them wanting to subpoena and get a lot of the information to squash it, I can't see these companies being a part of that. They have to, divulge from that.
And I foresee that being the future of this. I think this pause is going to get prolonged. They're going to not comply with the new rules that, Hong Kong or the Chinese government is going to put on Hong Kong citizens that, essentially the Sedition Act, if somebody posts on Facebook or Twitter something against the Beijing government, that counts as sedition, right? And they can go and arrest those people. So they're going to start getting requests for rooting out these problem citizens in Chinese government's opinion. And if they don't comply, like I said, the firewall in China and Hong Kong will all of a sudden just put it to where Google, Facebook, Twitter are just not going to be allowed to operate within those countries or within Hong Kong. And it's going to be a sad day for Hong Kong. I mean, they're not going to have much of a recourse there.
Well, and to bring this story kind of closer to home, we did that story on the Earn It Act. This isn't that much different.
Right.
This isn't that much different than what the American government is trying to pass on these companies right now. So as you hear us talking about fuck China and the things that are happening to the citizens of Hong Kong, our government looks at the Chinese government a lot of times and says, hey, it's actually not a fucking bad idea. Like, that could, we can't just brazenly do it like China does and say, fuck everybody, this is what we're doing. But we're going to mask the same mindset and the same technology under saving the kids, because nobody has a problem about saving the kids. So let's do government intrusion under the guise of child trafficking, because if you're a supporter of child trafficking, then you're a piece of shit. And if you don't vote for this Earn It Act, then you're all in favor of child trafficking. Like, the American government wants to do the same thing. They just go about it in a different way. So as we talk about these stories in Hong Kong and in China and what they do not doubt that our own country is trying to find a less public way of doing the same things to us.
Yeah, and just to give an update on the Earn It Act, it wasn't something I had on the list, but, the Earn It Act progressed to the next step in the Senate. I think it was 3 or 4 days ago, just at the end of last week. So the Earn It Act is moving forward, and, the whole concept of the Earn It Act, it's going to break down encryption. It's going to break down our ability here, right? It's not like Chinese sedition laws or whatever else that you're not going to be able to say anything negative about the president anymore or whatever else.
Baby steps to that.
But it does force these social media companies, internet-based companies, to have a closer relationship with
your private
with the government
messages.
And law enforcement, and through your private messages, where your private messages can't be private anymore if the companies are held liable for what you're saying privately. So it's definitely a challenge. Electronic Frontier Foundation is still, I think they just posted about 4 days ago about this and about this moving forward, and about how it still is a complete threat to the future of encryption.
Can you imagine what would have happened when we were in the days of phone operators that had to plug the little dials into all the different holes, and they could listen to, back in the day, they could listen to everybody's conversation. They had the headset on and they, could shut it on and off. This is essentially that phone operator plugging in all the holes and then having a direct line next to her to the police station, and anytime she hears something that is somewhat nefarious or doesn't go with government guidelines, picking up that phone and calling the cops on you. Like, can you imagine how society would have reacted if it was like in that kind of physical form? And because everything's digital, we just don't look at it like that.
It would be like if, you know, the Bell company, the AT&T Bell company, or whatever it was at the time, if they were sued because that operator didn't catch somebody talking about a criminal act on the phone and they're reporting it, like making. So now Dolores is
walking back and forth with a clipboard, making sure that all her operators are ratting people out constantly.
Yeah. And if not, then they're held liable because somebody planned a criminal activity on their platform or on their phone service. It would be absolutely ridiculous for anybody to think that was okay. But right now we have the Senate taking modern communication, internet-based communication, and trying to apply that rule to it.
Yeah, and because it's a different form of communication that we've become so accustomed to, that has a lot of, you know, ones and zeros and bells and whistles going on in the background, we don't seem to equate it as the same. But to me, it's essentially the exact same fucking thing. You know, we have big pushback over FISA warrants and illegal tapping of your phones. You know, people go up in arms about that shit, but nobody's noticing that they're going to skim all your emails and private messages for the same fucking purpose.
Well, I don't know how we got from fuck China to our own depressing state, but that's where we're at.
Well, it just brings the emphasis on why we should care about what goes on in China.
Yeah, absolutely. And China's ability to affect and limit other people's freedoms as well, you know, as they're extending into Hong Kong. If you ever really want to get depressed and talk about the future developing of, like, you know, what China's relationship with, like, the continent of Africa and the way they're rolling out their technology and essentially giving it to the nations over there, it's actually going to look like economic subservience.
They got their fingers
soon.
in so far in there that, you know, people in Zimbabwe are going to start speaking Mandarin soon. Like,
it's going to be economic subservience. They are handing them 5G technology. They're handing them, you know, Huawei based technology as a gift from the Chinese government. They're providing them the infrastructure needed.
And once they get accustomed to it, China can just threaten to pull it, and they have the subservient government now at their whims.
Yeah, and that's essentially what it looks like they're moving towards. And there's really nobody stepping in and stopping it. And we'll find over the next decade how tightly tied that continent becomes to Chinese technology and Chinese energy, as China is providing them coal burning plants and power plants, and then also selling them the coal to operate them.
Man, fuck China.
All right. But all right, with all that said, I think that's a week in news. Please follow us over at TikTok. And
our non-existent TikTok account.
Just kidding. We're not over there. But no, hey, please join us over at thenerdcantina.com/community, which will take you to our private Facebook group, which is a great time of interested nerds sharing whatever is important to us this week. Most of the time memes, as that's always important.
Where are anime fans at? I know we got a bunch of anime fans in that group that are hurting for a larger audience of anime people to talk to. So if you're listening to this show and you like anime, you got some friends in a group that really want your company.
But go ahead and join us over there. It's a good time. And then please take a moment if you're a listener and you haven't taken a moment to provide a rating and a review on iTunes or whatever platform you're at, or at least hit that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated if you took those few minutes out of your life to do so.
Yeah, and I'm going to take this time to do a little humble brag and say that we got a retweet from a presidential nominee this week. Our boy Andrew Yang sent a shout out to the Nerd Cantina for our show on the Data Dividend last week. So big things are brewing, guys. Big things are brewing.
Yeah. Definitely not too late to sign up over for the Data Dividend project, as I'm a big believer in it. I don't think it's going to provide you money that changes your life, but I do believe that it's going to change the norms between what we think about with data and what we force the tech companies to live by. So you can sign over at the datadividendproject.com.
DDP for all.
Yep.
All right, guys. That's the news. We'll see you later.
All right. Talk to you next week, nerds.